Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbender, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU. Hey everyone, today it is my pleasure and honor to welcome Tristeza Ordex-Ramirez to the I Have Something to Say and Urbender and UdoU family. Welcome, Tristeza. How are you?
Thank you. I can't even put it in words. I'm really excited. One, to be doing this, and the other for, our people here locally to get to know me, as an organizer, as a, you know, like they say, a good troublemaker,
Yes.
and somebody that they can trust. So I'm
Yes, I'm
excited.
so excited. I'm so excited. We were introduced by Johanna Lopez, a dear friend of mine and yours.
Yes.
And I think she knew what she was cooking up when she
I think so too.
when she was putting us together. It was like fire. Anyway, so,
Yes,
so
definitely
and
spark
I just want to
flew.
give you a proper introduction. Okay, so Tristeza is a U.S. Army vet. Thank you for your
Marine,
service.
U.S.
Amazing.
Marine.
Yes, she's a Latinx civic engagement leader. She's a national organizer and coordinator of all things having to do with developing leadership and community engagement and civic engagement and voter registration and setting forth into the electoral process viable and strong and just good eggs as candidates, right? To run for office that really represent our community, what the US looks like today. I
Yes,
mean, did I get that right?
absolutely. Yep.
Yes. And just a fierce advocate for all things just, and a fearless warrior. I mean, what we got on the phone and spoke for hours, and it's like, okay, I know you. I know this chick. I
Yeah.
know her. I know her. And I'm so excited that you're here in Central Florida. It's always amazing to receive word that there's a new leader, in our midst, and to have been able to talk to you and really come together with you and, in mind, in heart, and purpose. And during our initial conversation was just amazing. And I'm like, and thanks for joining us on last, like, it was like, you know what? Can you just come on the podcast? And you're like, sure, with no preparation, nothing. And I just wanted to just take a deep dive right now into how did you land in Orlando? Because you come by way of Texas, and then
Yes.
also, of across the country because you were in the military for so many years. But how did you land here in Central Florida? Let's start with that.
All right. So, the circumstances were unfortunate of how I ended up in Florida. I went through a extremely difficult divorce. A lot of it had to do because of the work that I do in the community, how much I'm involved. And, for anybody that is going to be listening to this and is in the line of work that I do, um, you absolutely need to have a partner that supports what you do because this is not a 9 to 5 job. It's a job, like in the Marine Corps, they say you're a Marine 24/7. And as an advocate, organizer, activist, whatever title people choose to use to describe themselves, it's a 24/7 job because, shit pops off all the time. I mean, look at what happened
Mm-hmm.
at the hospital. Look at what happened with some of the actions that were taken during the Black Lives Matter movement after George Floyd was killed. Look at what happened with the Vanessa Guillen movement. Things just happen, and they happen in the middle of the night, they happen early in the morning, they happen during the holidays and weekends. So, it put me where I'm at here in Florida now. But I took about a year and a half off from all organizing and, any of that work just to kind of get myself and get my life back together. And I ended up in Florida because my sister lived in Fort Myers. So that's where my son and I ended up, in the middle of, life's chaos. And when my divorce was finalized, I was like, where am I going to go? So am I gonna go to Tampa? Am I gonna go to Orlando? Am I gonna go to Miami? Or am I gonna go back to Texas? And I was like, I wa I wanna stay here. It's the most, logical thing for me. There was still a lot of healing that I had to do with Texas. And so I picked Orlando because I was like, there's a lot of work that I can do there.
Mhm.
Miami's got something solid established. I know Tampa really doesn't, but my work that I was in at the time wouldn't take me there. So I got you know, a great opportunity to transfer from my job that I was at the time to here. And it was during the George Floyd murder that I was like, okay, I need to wake the hell up and see what I can do here in Orlando. And that's kind of where it started. It started back up. And really, I like really jumped in like full body into the water y todo, when the Vanessa Guillen case
Mhm.
arose. And it, I tried to separate myself from it because it was something very personal for me, being a Mexican American, being, the daughter of a formerly undocumented immigrant, having served in the military. I was like, "It's too much." Being a survivor of military sexual trauma, I was like, "I don't know, like, it just brings up too much." But
Mhm.
on 4th of July, I was just like, "That's it. I'm done seeing these things continue to happen in
Mhm.
these institutions that stand on the soapbox of honor, integrity, and accountability, responsibility, and patriotism, and whatever else, I was like, no, you're not doing that. And so I was like, all right, time to like get myself together and get back into the game. And since then I haven't stopped. So
Yeah.
it's been really, really busy. 7 months, and I I'm excited. And I'm excited the most because I see what is happening and what is not happening in Orlando, and
Mhm.
I want to build on that. And
Yeah.
what I've been doing aside from, where I work for the Working Families Party, but I do a lot of projects here in Orlando on my own, and I'm like, "Who wants to work with me?" And I'm like, "Tell me someone else that you know so that way we can bring them in." And,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how we ended up here, you know?
Yeah, totally. Share with us your previous, like your community work and your advocacy and your organizing experience back in Texas, because you left the military after successful. I mean, I know all the accolades and all of the recognitions that you received in your years, your 10 years in the military, in the Marine Corps, and wow, it's like mind blowing. But then when you left the Marine Corps, you decided to really become involved in community initiatives and in programming and really in the political process, right? And so how did you transition from military to that, to advocacy and
Yeah.
and politics and civic engagement?
So when I retired from the Marine Corps in 2014, Um, I was very broken, to say the least. It wasn't my choice to retire. I was medically retired, and I had a difficult time accepting it because I was always like, "I'm gonna die in the Marine Corps, and I'm going to be the first female sergeant major of the Marine Corps. Watch me." And I had these ambitions in that career, but
Mhm.
you know, life had different plans for me. I retired and I started going to school right away, which is like what
Mhm.
all veterans do. Like, what do you do when you get out of the Marine Corps? You go to school. And so I was like, I
Mhm.
hope that I stuck at it because
Mhm.
I hate school, but I found out I was really good at it.
Yeah.
I surprised myself and I did so much better than I thought I would. And
Mhm.
so I started advocacy work with veterans because there was a lot of things that I was seeing that were not provided for women veterans that were provided for our male counterparts. And,
Mhm.
so I started there. The biggest issue that I've always touched on with veterans issues is veteran suicide, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I've lost people, Marine friends and others to suicide. And,
Mhm.
um, and so that was like a big thing that I wanted to make sure that I brought awareness to our community about there in Texas, because Texas is a very big military, veteran-centered state. They're like, "We love our
Mhm.
blah, 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 this and that," but it's like, "But did you know that because this and this and this is not provided, this is happening? Or because these obstacles are in the way, more veterans are committing suicide." And
Right.
so it was a real eye opener for the campus where I was going to school. I co-founded a student veterans organization at the community college I was at, Tarrant County Community College, and they were like very supportive about everything I wanted to do. Everything. I'd be like, "I need money for this," and they'd be like, "Okay, how much?" Um, so it was great. And I I I don't wanna say I took advantage. I don't wanna use that word, but I, uh, I took the
You
opportunity.
seized. You
Yeah,
seized every opportunity that came your way.
absolutely. I did because I wanted to make sure that I set our veterans up for success.
Mhm.
From there, I went on to a four-year university, Texas Wesleyan, there in Fort Worth, and I did the same thing. And we did some amazing things. I actually piloted a program
Uh-huh.
where because I did volunteer work with the Veterans Treatment Court there that was there in Fort Worth, and
Mhm.
I would sponsor all the children of all of the participants that were in the Veterans Treatment Court, these justice involved veterans, and we would gift them brand new clothes and shoes because
Mhm.
everybody was giving away toys. We wanted to make sure that we provided them some essential things, which were clothes
Right.
and shoes,
Right.
brand new. And
Mhm.
so that program has continued since I've left. My friend's mother-in-law, my friend that co-founded the first organization with me at Tarrant County, his mother-in-law has taken that program, and it's so touching, when he told me, he's like, "She said that she knew that you would want this to continue, and that's why she's doing."
Mm.
I'm like,
Mhm.
"Damn, like, that's so like, it's so heartwarming, I don't even know how to
Yeah.
explain it because,
Yeah.
the reason I wanted to do it was because I was always like, "This could be me, this could have been me." I could
Yeah.
have, popped off at the mouth at somebody or, dealt with the things that I was dealing with my PTSD and all that, with substance abuse or alcohol abuse,
Mhm.
um, and I could have ended up here just as easily.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wanted to show these veterans, like, there's no shame, like,
Mhm.
you got a whole group of people that got your back.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I really started to get into work that was, not veteran
Mhm.
specific was when Texas passed SB 4, which is the Show Me Your Papers law. Uh,
Mm.
we I went and I testified in front of city council to encourage them to join the lawsuit against SB4.
Mhm.
Um, they did not. We were the only major city in Texas, El Paso, Houston, Austin, um, all these big cities, San Antonio, all joined the lawsuit against SB4, and Fort Worth was the only one. Even Dallas joined, our neighbors.
Wow.
So, I had a very unique perspective on it because one, when people look at me, they see una muchachita del barrio.
Mhm.
They don't think like, oh, she's a veteran. Um,
Mhm.
and I was married to an immigrant at the
Mhm.
time that was
Mhm.
active duty in the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
And so I wanted the city. I was one of those people that like I take note of what people say about what they'll do for the military. And I
Yeah.
told the mayor of Fort Worth that I was like, you said in this room during a state committee meeting that you would do everything to protect military families. Does that include
Mhm.
mine? Because this law is going to affect my family.
Mhm.
Um, and it didn't.
Mm.
And the way that she showed that was she voted to not join the lawsuit. She was the
Mm.
deciding vote.
Wow.
And, after that, I was like, "All right, y'all pissed me off. We're about to get real." And you better believe I was always at city council meetings, talking about something like, "How
Yeah.
come y'all aren't doing this? How come you're not providing services for this? Why are you not showing up so that, you know, our city residents can talk about these issues that aren't that and these things that aren't being provided? They're provided to one side of the city, but not to another. Why? Because
Mhm.
they're people of color, because
Mhm.
more low income area,
Mhm.
why not? And so yeah, I was there. I was a part of that a lot. And the trouble continued. It was a point where I kind of started to get to know who I was. The 2016
Mhm.
elections were the first elections I ever voted in.
Oh, what?
Yes. I know. People are like,
Wow.
"Hey, but you do this work," and I'm like, "This is why I do this work."
Wow. That is wow. That's incredible. So you were in the military because that's a whole culture in of itself,
Mhm.
right? So when you left the military, you feel like you had to find yourself in society and like just,
Yeah.
mainstream society. Wow. And so then how was that experience voting in 2016?
It was,
For
very
the first time.
confusing.
Yeah. Mhm.
It was empowering, it was confusing, I felt so lost in the entire process. The only thing I knew was that I was not gonna vote for Donald Trump,
Mhm.
um, because if you know anything about Marines,
Mhm.
a lot of Marines are extremely conservative,
Mhm.
very, very conservative,
Mhm.
and I am the extreme, like, polar opposite of that.
Yeah.
Um And the thing that I've always told people, because 'cause they're like, "Well, I would expect that you'd be a little bit more conservative about these things because you're a veteran," and I'm like, "But there's more to me than my veteran status. I'm the daughter of an
Mhm.
immigrant, I'm a woman of color, I'm
Mhm.
Latinx,
Mhm.
I not have, generational wealth. I come from a very poor home,
Mhm.
uh, so there's a lot more facets to me than just, 'Hi, you're a
Yeah.
veteran status.'"
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that I people don't ever ask me because I'm a woman. People would be like, "Oh, your spouse is a Marine," and I'd be like, "I'm a Marine too."
Mhm.
And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you are?" And I'm like, "Yes, why would I not be? Do you not
Mhm.
believe veterans or that Marines look like me
Mhm.
or talk like me or are interested in this part of politics like I am?" I'm
Mhm.
immigration.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in building a wall. And it was because that election to me was so important because
Mhm.
when this man came out and announced his intent to run for president, the first people that he attacked were Mexicans.
Yeah. Mhm.
They're murderers, they're rapists. And I was like, "Damn, like, my dad was none of those things."
Right. Mhm.
He was a hardworking class man that
Mhm.
built the American dream.
Mhm.
And me, I always tell people, I'm the American dream. I came from nothing, and now I
Mhm.
have enough to be able to take care of me and my son. And
Mhm.
and so I want, through my story, to inspire people. And because of that, I was like, I have to vote. And the only thing I did was, I'm not voting for Trump.
Yeah.
I was so confused because then people were like, "Oh, city elections happened a few months later," and I was like, "Wait, what? Like, where do I go vote?"
Right.
I I didn't know. I thought everything happened on that one
And
election.
that one time, yeah.
Yes,
So
and
then you learned about American electoral process and the terms and all of that, and then about the candidates, I'm sure, because
yes,
then I know that you went full force into supporting
I
into
did.
supporting certain campaigns and just really became, you went from 0 to 2000%,
Yeah,
right?
I
In a
did
matter of how long? Like a year? Like,
in a year,
from, yeah, wow.
and it's so crazy because so I started my community advocacy work in the summer of 2017.
Mhm.
And as I went learning, because I wanted to go to law school, but then I was like, I met this state representative. He's my mentor, Ramon Romero. He's a state representative in Fort Worth. And I was like, so I have this like 10-year plan. Like, um, I'm gonna do my internship with him, and I finished my internship hours. I had to do 150 hours. I finished them in like 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And then he offered me a job to be his deputy district director. So then I started going all over the place and learning. I was like, oh man, this is like gotta put it in my little toolbox. And then I was like, I give myself 5 years to get into Congress to work for a congressional elected official. And I
Mhm.
did it in 5 months. And then I
Mhm.
was like, in 10 years, I want to be someone's chief of staff. And
Mhm.
I was offered a position as a chief of staff within 10 months from when I started my work. And I turned it down
Mm.
for reasons that my political values did not align with that person. She was my state
Mhm.
representative at the time.
Mhm.
And I ultimately ended up resigning from that my congressman's office. I worked for my own
Mm.
congressman because I learned about who I was politically, because I always had these like kind of ideals of politics. I hated it. I was like, todos son una bola de mentirosos. Like they all lie, they're all corrupt. Like I had that mentality. So when people talk to me like that and they tell me that, I'm like, yeah, that used to be me. But let me tell you what changed it. And the thing is that it really, things kind of broke in the relationship I had with my congressman while I worked for him, because I volunteered. I worked on the AOC campaign. Uh,
Mhm.
I worked on other progressive campaigns, and they were like, "You can't be public about it," because one of them, she was running against the Republican congresswoman that neighbored our district, and
Mhm.
what I was told was, "Well, it's because she's not gonna win, and he has to preserve that relationship with the congresswoman." And I'm like, "She's a Republican. She should
Mhm.
understand. If she's
Mhm.
going to preserve the relationship that she has with him, if he gets, a strong Republican, um, opponent, no, she's not gonna give a crap." And
Mhm.
so I resigned. I
Mm.
resigned, for that and for, some other reasons too, and so I left, and I was like, I would rather clean houses and scrub toilets and clean floors than compromise my beliefs, my belief system, my political values. And my
Mhm.
political values tie into my personal life values
Mhm.
because, you know, the of how strongly I believe, about helping and working in the immigrant community and with the LGBTQ community and with women, equality, all kinds of stuff. And so I was like, no,
Mhm.
I can't.
Mhm.
And another big
Yeah.
thing for me with the military industrial complex, he took in so
Mm.
much money from Lockheed Martin and other uh,
Mhm.
institutions, corporations that feed into this war machine that keeps us in these endless wars. And I was like, I went over there. You think that I got taken care of when I got back from Iraq and Afghanistan?
Mhm. Mhm. Mm.
No.
Mm.
And so I was like, no, I'm out. I can't do
Yeah.
it. And yeah, so I kind of been went like at 100 from
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
I
It's
worked
like
on
it
a
was like like a really like a crash course almost on how on the dynamics, on the BS, on on and on the ideology and on the compromises that people make on both ends, really, you
absolutely.
know, but that you weren't willing to take. I think that's freaking amazing. And and so, I know that you're now here in Central Florida, that you were in Fort Myers, which is, not like in the like where like in the city, right? It's not close to the city. I'm not gonna knock other cities, because
It's
it's not about
uber,
that.
uber conservative, to say the
Yes,
least.
uber conservative, and then also, not Orlando's trying to be more of a cosmopolitan city, like we're getting there, poco a poco, but you've only been here for 7 months, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we finally met. I mean, it was going to happen eventually, but I'm so excited about your zest and your love for community, and your creativity and the things that you want to do. I know that it's so funny because the project that you're currently working on, and we'll get into that, is in the very community that I have a project into. So we're going to definitely come together to work on that. But I wanted to talk to you first, before we talk about that, and about impacting youth, right? And helping change the narrative about their worth and their future. I wanted to talk to you about, in all of your experiences, because you've been through it all. I mean, you've worked, except for you haven't worked for the private sector, like for a big corporation or anything. But you know what, Mama, you're not missing much.
Oh, I
um
ain't even worried about that. They're not gonna get a piece of
and it's
me.
all this, and honestly, it's all the same shit. But I wanted to, you've been able to, as a Latina, and as a woman, and as to really live and work and coexist with people in these ecosystems that are hyper patriarchal and hyper racist, really, and so, how I would love to hear what you think about double standards. About
Ooh,
double standards for, I mean, I know it's pretty broad,
let's unpack this
broad.
shit.
I mean, how much time do we have, right? But, about double standards, in terms of access, opportunities, treatment, perception, um, validation, protections. I mean, there's just so much to go over, but basically free reign. I'm all ears, because I know that we've had this conversation offline, but you know, sometimes people don't understand what that looks like in real life. And I think that you're not shy, and you're more than
Es
willing and able,
una
fully
sinvergüenza.
capable. Exactly, sin vergüenza. You're fully capable of showcasing, like really giving us like tangibles of what that experience is like, looks like, and feels like. So,
Yeah.
please.
So, a lot of how I am, how I operate in these male-dominated, professions, institutions, what have you, has a lot to do with how I grew up. I was raised by my dad. He's an he was an immigrant from Mexico. Um, he, uh he was machista, but
Mhm.
not with his daughters. He
Mhm.
always was like, "Ustedes pueden igual que los hombrecitos."
Yeah.
He I worked in the fields, at a very young age, picking strawberries, blackberries, all the way through when I was a junior in high school, cleaning the onion field, so I know what that labor is like.
Mhm.
And it's very, arduous labor. It's I mean, it's not anything simple. And so from there, I learned the importance of work ethic.
Mm.
My dad at a young age put me to play soccer on his boys teams because he only coached boys teams. And
Mhm.
so he would always tell me like, si te golpean, dales más duro, and no estés
Yeah, yeah.
llorando enfrente de los muchachitos. And so,
Yeah. So
um,
if they hit you, I want to say it in English too. So if they push you over or they kick you or hit you, you hit right back. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, he was very, he wanted to always make me feel that there were no limits for me just because I was a woman.
Mhm.
Um, and I've always remembered that. I've always carried that. Growing up, like my dad would always say, ustedes que son nacidos en este país tienen que hacer más que yo. You were
Mm.
born in the country and you have to do more than me
Mm.
because
Mhm.
I'm an immigrant and you have this status. And that's always stuck with me. And so from that, I always pushed myself in sports. I played with the boys. I was always like, "Oh, you want to try and come for me? I'm gonna take you out." Um, then that turned into me selecting which branch of the military I was going to go into. And I picked the Marines because, one, for me, I was like, I remember working in the fields and seeing these elderly individuals out there. And I would always think, I do not want my parents to be in this. Like,
Mm.
I want to be able to take care of them. And so I joined the Marine Corps and I joined this other extremely male dominated institution.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it was difficult because and this is a lot in these type of professions,
Mhm.
police, firefighters, where women are told you're going to be one of two. You're going to be a bitch
Mhm.
or you're going to be a slut. Those are the
Mm.
options that are given to you.
Wow.
And they tell you, like, which one are you gonna be? And I was always like, no, pues yo me voy a poner cabrona because like, there's no way.
Yeah.
um, and I always had this thing about me that I always wanted to set myself aside. And I wanted people to know, like, I'm not just any woman, like, I'm
Mhm.
the woman. I'm the bitch,
Mhm.
not a bitch. I'm the bitch. And so that was a mentality that I began to foster in the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
And I was successful. I had a very successful career, but it didn't come without its challenges
Mhm.
or um its trauma.
Mm.
I am a survivor of military sexual trauma. And what I tell a lot of people is that those that have experienced sexual violence in the military don't only go through it once.
Mm.
I was sexually harassed by peers, by my superiors, by individuals who didn't know me and just wanted a piece of me. And
Mhm.
in turn, I had to either shut up about it and internalize what happened to me, or because the one time that I reported, I was blamed. And I didn't do
Mm.
any. This male Marine came to my room and tried to force himself into my room while I was at a military academy.
Mm.
And the question that was asked to me by my sergeant major was like, "Why you? Out of all the females we got here, why you?" And I'm like, Heck if I know. Like, I don't talk to anybody.
Right.
And that was, like, always my thing that I never talked to anybody, any males, because I never wanted my name in anybody's mouth. I was always
Mm.
like, they're gonna say, "No, not Ordex," like, that's not her, like, she never talks to anybody. She's too stuck up or
Mm,
she's just
yeah.
and and
Mhm.
and I would rather they have that perspective of me than to be like, "Oh, no, but tú sabes, you know how it is, you know how some
Mhm.
women are." I never
Mm.
wanted that conversation about me.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, so and then transitioning out of that, um, environment, that rape culture in the military,
Mhm.
back into society, and as I started to get acquainted with the my political profession, or organizing, I started to see how men would try to use, what they had at their, um, grips to be able to use it to try and flirt with me. When I worked for Ramon Romero, I remember I would go to some of these meetings, representing him in community meetings. And I remember this one guy, he was a small business owner, Latino. Um, and like us, like Latinos, when we greet, it's with a hug and a kiss on the cheek and ¿cómo tú estás? All that. And this man would be like, all my friends are always asking me who all these beautiful women are around me. You want to be one of them. And I was like, first of all, I ain't here for all that. Second of all, I'm married and you don't compare.
Mhm.
So just had this mindset. And even a person like me had, I had a difficulty speaking up for myself.
Mm.
When I worked with the Veterans Treatment Court, one of the people that I did a lot of the communicating with on the projects that I did with them and volunteer work, sexually harassed me, sent me very disturbing messages, text messages, and you know, I I had to have that conversation, and I finally gathered up the nerve to say something.
Mhm.
And my ex-husband knew about it, and he was like, "If you don't say something, Imma say something," and I was like,
Mhm.
"Let me just handle it because this will have professional repercussions for me." And he's like,
Right.
"Oh." So I did, and it didn't stop. It
Mm.
stopped for a little bit, and then they started again, and so I just completely blocked them.
Mm.
Um, and what people don't get is that these men that are serve in the military, they bring that rape culture out with them. Uh,
Mm. Mhm.
Veteran that I worked with very closely in the community, that sent me some atrocious text messages, and it made me feel so shitty. In all these situations, I was like, what made them think that they could do
Mhm.
this with me? What made them think that they could talk to me or behave like this with me? Because I said everything at the beginning. 1, I'm married. 2, I'm not here for your shit. And 3, don't fuck with me because I'm gonna come for
Mhm.
you. Um, and it was really difficult, and my ex-husband got involved that time and had a conversation with that guy and told him like, why would you do that? Like, you're married, my wife is
Mhm.
married to me, and you crossed the line. And I found out that it wasn't the first time he had done that to
Mhm.
a woman.
Mhm.
And what was even more heartbreaking is that he continued to do work in the community, in Dallas. And when it came where our the campaign he was working with and my organization came together on at an interview. And I told one of the staffers who used to work where I worked at the congressman's office and knew him, hey, like this person did this to me, they completely wrote it off. And she was a woman.
Wow. Yeah.
She wrote it off.
So, mm,
And it's devastating because those are the things that make women not want to say anything about the abuse that they encounter. And
right.
that is a big part of this patriarchal um
Society. Yeah, that
yes,
we're living in, right? Yeah.
this
Hmm.
culture
Yes,
where
it's a
they
culture. Hmm.
put themselves, and it's a negative, it's a toxic culture, toxic masculinity is a big issue, a
Hmm.
really it's a systemic issue,
Hmm.
and it leads into even greater abuses when you bring race into it, when you bring
Hmm.
um gender, race, socioeconomic status, these
Age,
people.
also generational. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
and but I will say this, like, I hate that I had to go through all that shit, but I will say this, I've learned a lot, and
Hmm.
I've spoken up about it, and I've
Hmm.
mentored women about it that have shared their own stories with me, and what I tell them is, "If anybody ever comes for you, tell me about it, and I will come
Hmm.
for them," because I'm finally in a position of strength where I feel like I can call a guy out, that tries to, like, make
Yeah.
a little at me and be like, "Well, I know you're trying to get into this, so we could work together." I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, social distancing, bro, like, tú te quedas allá and,
Yeah.
we can work like that, but that's it." And,
Hmm.
there some of these individuals try to take advantage of their positions and
Hmm.
try to assert that on the most vulnerable.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Again, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm like just like, oh my God. Thank you, Johanna, and thank you, universe, for bringing tristeza into bringing tristeza into Orlando. Which by the way, tristeza in Spanish is sadness. Yeah,
Yes.
and so yeah, that was the first thing I told you. I'm like, what? I'd never heard anyone be called tristeza. I love it, and like you said, now no one will forget your name, right?
Yeah, I always say,
Yeah,
"Soy la triste más alegre."
yeah,
I'm the
yeah, that she's
happiest sadness.
sad person. Yeah, you're the happiest sad person, right? Exactly. But so with all of these experiences in the military and outside, and like you've developed a really strong voice, and just a really like a lot of muscle, in terms of resiliency, really survival, right? And in terms of where you fit, where you see yourself fitting, and I think it's just fantastic that you found here in our community a cause, to engancharte. So it's okay, you know what? I'm going to start over here with the youth, and creating leaders and empowering them by first and foremost letting them know that they have something to contribute, that they're able to make a difference, and that even if they're in high school, and even though they're young, and even though people in the broader society labels them, right, because especially black and brown
Mhm.
kids, and teenagers, that you're saying presente, I'm here for you, and you've kind of like wiggled your way. I mean,
Yeah.
how that, because I'm going to tell you something. I've had elected officials in this town tell me, oh, people think that they could just show up, because it's very clicky and very talk about double standard, right? Well, you're laughing because you know what I'm talking about.
Woo! I'm laughing because I
Woo!
wish they would say that to me.
Yeah.
Because I'll
So,
tell you, the individuals that have not shown up for the things that I've done for the community are on my hit list, on my
yeah,
shit list, if you wanna call it,
yeah, yeah,
because they're so entitled.
yes,
They forget that they are servants.
yeah,
They are here to service us.
yes,
they get this big head, like, I got a little bit of clout, so I'm gonna do what I wanna do, and I'm gonna let
Yeah.
in who I wanna let in. And, that's one thing that I admire about Joanna, about Samuel Vilches.
Yeah.
What I admire so much about them, Ana Escamani, Carlos, Smith, I admire that they're like, "What? You wanna organize
Yeah.
with come on in, like, be
Yeah.
a
Uh-huh.
part of this." And, one thing that Joanna told me that I have carried forever is that, we take people like you real quick because we know lo que valen, we know your worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was an honor because you're right, like, things are really clicky.
Oh my
But
God.
those
It's
are
so
the
yeah, it's
people
horrible.
and those
And
are
so
the
I'm
people
the
that
same way.
I love to
I'm
prove
like,
them
that's
wrong.
okay. I say, oh, really? Okay. I'll catch you later, ¿verdad? Cuando yo te cojo
Yep,
bajando, yeah. I'm gonna keep on doing my thing over here, and when you're ready for this, then give me a call, right?
yeah,
And
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 really
then
that's how you
yeah,
gotta be.
yeah, yeah,
That is how you gotta
totally. So
be.
then,
There has to be, like you and I were discussing earlier. There's the you can't sit with the squad,
yeah, uh-huh.
and for me, like the attitude that I have towards those people is like, that's okay. I'll sit on the damn floor if I have to, but I'm gonna be through with you. Y poco a poquito, with whatever we can, we're
Yeah,
gonna build our own table. And when you're
yeah,
ready to stop being stupid, we'll pull you up a chair or a little bench or a bucket to sit on, and you
yeah,
can be part of what we're doing because we are
exactly.
inclusive. And that's how
Yeah,
it's gotta be. That's why like I always say, like, soy bien sinvergüenza. I'm very unapologetic about what I do because I know what it's like to be treated different
mm-hmm,
by certain groups, like, "You're too ghetto for us," or "You speak too much Spanish," or
mm-hmm.
"You cuss too damn much," you know, that's one of the big things.
I know. Welcome to my world. I'm like, I can't help myself. It's for emphasis, people. It's for emphasis.
Yeah, it is, and, like, this is what I say, 'cause I've had and this is another thing, like, that has to do with this whole patriarchal, system
Or
breakdown.
paradigms, yeah, or
Yeah,
rules. Yeah, uh-huh.
is that but you're so pretty. Why do you cuss so much? And it's like, and I had this conversation with somebody just the other day, and I'm like, just because I say fuck and shit all the time doesn't make me any less attractive. It doesn't make me any less intelligent. And I'm like, as a
Or
matter of fact,
capable.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, as a matter of fact, I use those words so that you understand the seriousness of what I'm talking about. And I know how to use my words. And I can talk like you and I can dress like you, but I'm gonna come as I am because I want people to know the real me, not some
Mhm.
made up, cookie cutter person that you want to have to be a part of your little clique.
Mhm.
Be who I am. And that's a thing with mobilizing people and educating
Mhm.
people on the electoral process and talking to them about your candidates is that you're gonna come at them and you're gonna talk to them in their space in their language. You can't go up in there talking all intellectual with these big old words that, even educated people don't understand because they don't know the profession. Like, you're going to come at them and
Yeah.
you're going to talk to them like, hey, I want to sit down and have a serious conversation about what matters to you, about
Mhm.
healthcare, about your children's education and why it's important for you to vote when this school board race comes up, why it's important
Mhm.
and talk to them about it. Talk to them about the protections that their student will receive, especially if they're immigrant, and
Mhm.
they're undocumented.
Mhm.
Talk to them and in their space, que te inviten, to a carne asada, and you're like there BSing with the family, shooting the shit, and talking
Mhm.
about issues like why are my streets not fixed? Why is
Yeah.
council allocating funds over here, pero acá en el barrio we can't
Mhm.
get the pothole fixed, and I've had my tire pop like 3 times.
Right.
I come from work late in the night and I leave early in the morning, and
Mhm.
and I always forget it's there because I'm so damn tired. Things like that.
Yeah.
And talking about the seriousness of their issues, you
Mhm.
know, providing, public transportation where it's most needed,
Mhm.
and that availability, the times that um, are are
Are needed for them to commute
yeah,
to get there. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
And with the frequency, yeah. Mhm.
Yep, exactly.
Totally.
So that way there isn't gaps and people aren't showing up to work late and losing their jobs. I mean, these are the most vulnerable, the most marginalized of all our communities. And
Mhm.
so, and a lot of the things that I addressed when I was in Texas are things that I'm looking at now within our own city council, to
Mhm.
see that there was somebody that was brought on um to the city of Orlando, that's going to be looking at the inclusivity of its program
Yeah.
and
And equity. And she's an outsider too. I'm so excited.
be like, we're
I
starting
hope she comes
a
in.
new crew here.
Yeah. I saw her speaking. I'm like, girl, I'm behind you 2000%. I really hope, like honestly, that she comes into this town and tears shit up. Because I feel she could, she could sniff them a mile away.
Yep.
And so anyway, I'm really excited about that. So I need you to please, please, please give me more specifics about the program that you're looking to run in Azalea Park in Colonial High School with high school students. And how in the world did you? I mean, I'm just in awe of you. Because again, you're like a newcomer, and you just like barged right in and said, this is what I'm gonna do. Are you on board? Are you not? Who do I need to talk to? How did you manage to to get this program into place? And you know that I'm already a fan and that I'm already in head first. And so,
I
so
know.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'm a sponsor. We're a sponsor. So please, please share the details.
So, all the projects that I've been doing here in Orlando, as I mentioned before, I've been doing as an individual. I'm not attached to any organization when I do these things. It's just what I see that's needed, and I do it. I did organized a vigil after the remains of Vanessa Guillen were found, and had a lot of support, especially from the city. And then I did a mural project to honor Vanessa Guillen, that was titled Orlando for Vanessa Guillen.
Hmm.
And it was very successful. It was not only to bring awareness on the military rape culture, but also to commemorate every Latinx woman that has served in the military, including LGBTQ and trans, to ensure that they were represented on that wall because our
Mm,
contributions are great, and Latinx women are enlisting in droves right now.
mm,
Um, and it was also very successful, and I wanted to connect small businesses that had suffered because of COVID, under this project so that they can make a little bit of money and get some name recognition, connect with one another, connect with community leaders. So it was great. And then I thought, okay, what can I do next? What's next? Um, this program, I was actually supposed to do it in December because I wanted to give these kids an opportunity to get something before Christmas. But because of time constraints, elections, and everything, it was so difficult. People were like, we were doing the runoffs, like it was just
yeah.
super difficult. But um, so what the project is, it is a um like a shoe giveaway, a sneaker
Mhm.
giveaway, for a pair of sneakers of up to $150. And so what they're gonna do is they're going to have to complete 15 hours of community service, volunteer service with an organization that is going to partner with me on this project. They'll have until the Thursday before spring break to sign up for it. The first 100 students will be accepted. And if we can get more donors, then we will bring in another 50 to 100 kids. My goal is 200 students.
Hmm.
Um, but I understand if, like if the money constraint is there, there's
Yeah.
nothing I can do about it. Um, and once they complete, they'll have to have their assessment turned in from the organization that they're working for, and submit an essay with the prompts provided about their experience, who they volunteered with, what they learned, um, all that good stuff. And then the Saturday before they go back um, to school from spring break, they will have a ceremony and they will receive those sneakers.
Mm.
And they'll send us 3 links to 3 different pairs of shoes that they want, and it'll be, from priority, like the first one to the last ones that
Yeah.
they want to
Yeah.
get, and so that way it gives us the opportunity if we can't get them their first choice because it's
Yeah.
sorry.
It's
Uh,
okay.
then we'll give them their next choice on down from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So,
great. And it's really to get them involved with the community. So the goals are to get them involved in the community. They need to do community work, for credit, right? Because to
yeah,
complete their high school, to get their high school diploma. It teaches them the value of their strengths and their contributions, and they'll meet people. So there's mentorship going on in that process too. And then also it's engagement with people that look like them too, because you want
exactly.
them also, right? So for example, we have a nonprofit. So aside from supporting your initiative, we want to sponsor some of the students in both ways by giving the sneakers, but also we can put them to work,
Yeah,
for credit. So anyway, so we'll talk offline. But I think this is really great. And 100 students. That's not
yeah,
like two or three. Like, that's
yeah.
lofty, like
100
a
students,
lofty
I know
goal.
that people are like, they're like, "Oh, how much do you have to raise?" And I'm like, "I have to raise $20,000." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I need 15,000 for 100 students, and I need about 5,000 to do the entire event." So that way, what I did for the Vanessa Guillen mural project was that I hired small business owners to do the decorating, to do,
Hmm.
they are in that business. And,
Yeah.
um, and so I want to create this space when these families show up so that they can see, like, look at what your child did, look at what they
Yeah.
learned, look at
Yeah.
what their reward is. And here's the added thing. So, yes, my big thing is that because, like I told you, I didn't know much about civic engagement. I know nothing about voting.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
in a lot of immigrant families, the priority is not to work. The priority is to go to school if you can go to school. It's not learning about civic engagement. It's about the sustainment of the family, sosteniendo la familia,
Yeah.
um, and everything else, if it comes, it comes. And so these families will not only get connected to organizations that can
Hmm.
help their immigration case, any legal matters, small business development, know your
Financial
rights.
literacy. Financial
Yes, financial
literacy. Yeah.
literacy, which is extremely important with these
Hmm.
families. um, and also opportunities for their children to apply for scholarships for them to go
Hmm.
to school. A couple of the organizations that are coming in are like United We Dream, um, Latino Justice. I'm in conversation with Florida Immigration Coalition. Um,
Alianza.
Alianza is in, Poderosas. Poderosas is this fellowship program that coaches these women about leading organizations, or running for office, or running campaigns,
Mhm.
being these professionals, like strong
Mhm.
Latinx women showing
Mhm.
their power. And that's one thing that, like, I'm very, because of how I grew up and because of the way that I have found who I am as a Latina woman, like, is that I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm a force to be reckoned with. Like, I always tell them, I'm like, if you hear my name, you better be wearing your big girl panties because I'm coming. And if you ain't doing what you're supposed to and you represent me in office, it's about to go down. Um,
Exactly, yeah.
and that's the thing that, like, I always tell when I talk to these individuals that are potential voters, it's like, you gotta understand that there's thousands of people that say, "Mom, my vote don't count." No one's listening to me. But that voice gets louder when you add in another and
Mhm.
another, and another and another, and that's how we build because we can't do this shit on our own. I know I
Mhm.
can't do this program on my own. This project,
Mhm.
like, I have to make sure that I raise the money. I have to make sure that I
Mhm.
get organizations and all that. And it's the power of all these different individuals, organizational leaders, community leaders, that are investing in this project so it can happen. Because I can't
Mhm.
do it all.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I could do a lot.
Yeah.
I'm a very organizer,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but
I'm like, you seem to be doing a lot, on your own, but it's really, breaking through and knocking on the right doors, and like you're really, I just feel like it's awesome to have you here. I'm so excited. We already talked about this. I'm in head first, and whenever you need otra sinvergüenza to come
oh, yeah,
and
there's always room for
you,
more.
you know that it's a big fuck yes for me. Like I'm in like head
Yeah.
first, and you know,
And I think
and
the one thing that our people need to realize is, like you were saying earlier, you about how, sometimes people don't want to let us in because we're newbies, or we're unknown, or,
or we're
you,
women.
yeah, or be like you, that you've been in the game for a while and people are like, oh, ahí viene otra vez Sammy.
Yeah.
We have to create this, I don't know if you'd call it an agenda, but this trait of getting in, whether they want us or not.
Right.
Because, like, for me, I've been able to get as far as I have in these last month, 7 months, 8 months, because I refuse to take no. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you don't support me? Bet I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna make it known that you did not support because
Mm-hmm.
this is a cause. I'm not asking you to, you know, por cualquier cosita. Like, this is something that's going to build our city. Our
Right.
youth are going to build
Mm-hmm.
our city. Our
Mm-hmm.
veterans here need the support that they need from their city, their
Mm-hmm.
elected officials, period.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was at the Vanessa Mural Project, there were two elected officials that just completely dropped off. And they're on my list of people that I feel are unfit to
Mm-hmm.
be in those positions, not just because of that, but because they have not put any comment out on the issue of military rape culture,
Right.
especially a congresswoman. Like, what the hell are you doing if you're not talking about this? You have
Right.
veterans in your district that suffered that, and you're not saying anything. Why? Because it didn't happen in Orlando or in Florida?
Right.
Bullshit.
Right.
No, just because you don't know what it's like to be undocumented or be the daughter of immigrants? No, bullshit. It's still your responsibility because your constituents live it day in and day out. So it
Mm-hmm.
should be important to you. And that's the importance of just showing the fuck up. Like, showing up and be like, I know none of you here like me, but I don't care. because I'm doing the right thing. And
Yes.
ultimately, that's what it's about. You have to, I say you have to grow the brass ovaries to, show up in those places and be like,
Yeah. This is
I'm
what
here
we're
for you.
doing.
Like
Exactly.
AOC
This is what
said,
we're
bitches get
doing.
shit done.
Yeah, yeah. This is what we're doing. We could use that tone, right? This is what
Yeah,
we're doing because it's the right thing to do. And either, lead or follow or get out of the way. Because here we go.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm at that point where I'm like, look, you're taking too damn long, and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like go around you because you're
Yeah.
pissing me off. Like
Yeah,
these
totally.
are no times to be lollygagging. It's a time where you're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Se va a hacer. Are you in or you out? And I'm one of those people that like, I'm not gonna give you a half-ass answer. I'm gonna
Right.
tell you directly, yes, I can or no, I can't. Most of the time, it's usually yes because I'm like, where can I help? Like, do you need me to pass
Yeah.
out?
Yeah.
Um,
I get
but
that. Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
these kids to feel like I feel. I want them to feel empowered. I want them to feel like everything is possible. One very very specific thing that I want them to understand is that the military is not the only option that they have. And that's one
Mhm.
thing that I'm doing with my son. I tell him I'm like we're going to get to the point financially where you'll be able to tell me what school you're going to and I'm going to write a check.
Yeah.
I'm going to check and you're going to pay
Yeah.
for tuition and your books.
So that's
And
it. Yeah. Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want these kids to feel like they have so many possibilities. And that's what
Mhm.
these organizations are going to do because if this is something they're passionate about, then they
Mhm.
like, hell yeah, I want to be the executive director of Latino Justice or United We
Yeah.
Dream, Gente,
Yeah.
like I just want to inspire these kids to
Mm.
dream big and and
Big.
and go for it without any hesitation. We're always gonna be afraid. Shit, I get scared. I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna say no to me. But then I'm like, and I'm like, fuck it, si me dicen que no, I'm gonna go do it somewhere else.
And here you are. I am
Here I
so
am.
and here you are doing it here. Yeah. I'm so excited. What is your timeline to gather the funding? So that way we're mindful of when we post this podcast, yeah, out there.
So I want to have I want to have 95% of the funds or 90% of the funds by March 1st. Because then
Oh,
that allows
yeah.
me time to be able to allocate the money where it needs to
Yeah.
go. Um,
Yeah.
and if I see that at the halfway point of the fundraising that we have more funds or that we're like very near our goal, then I want to bring in another 50 kids to be able to do it. If they come
That'd
in
be
late,
awesome.
I
Mhm.
mean, it's only 15 hours. Um,
Yeah.
Está fácil.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Pero nada, I need you to share the information with me because we're going to disseminate this and you're going to surpass the goal. This is just too good. This is just too good to for people to pass up on and the impact is going to be great. Listen, Tristeza, I am so happy to have met you. I know that this is just like the beginning,
it
of
is.
a long lasting friendship and just the beginning of a lot of work that we're going to be working on together. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited, so excited to meet you, and I can't wait to work with you because I know it. I mean, yeah, my mind's already racing a mile a minute, and so we'll definitely be talking, often offline, to basically get shit done. Let's just do this, mama. Okay?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
excited. I'm all in. I will say that with the project, if there's individuals that want to sponsor, if they want to get like, I have a group of 3 girls that are splitting the it 50-50-50, and they're sponsoring a student. So if there's any, or even if it's like a family and they say like entre 6 de nosotros vamos a patrocinar, we're going to sponsor one kid, or if it's
Yeah.
several different organizations or small businesses, like, we're taking them all. Help
Yeah.
me get
Yeah.
there.
Oh, totally. I'm gonna introduce you to several other organizations that
Yes,
in the business
please.
community. Yeah, that they would love to support this. They would love to. Okay, so listen. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today, and thank you just for being you. I really appreciate the time you took to
You.
have this conversation with me.
And thank you so much for giving me the time to be able to say what I gotta say. I hope that, all these elected officials watch this and know that, Hurricane Tristeza is about to come on down on them.
You got it.
Work with me, take you out.
Exactly. I'll talk to you soon, okay, Tristeza?
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Mwah, un beso. This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.